quick gut check. Do you open your Notion, immediately see all the things you're tracking, and then want to close it? Even though you built it, and even though everything on the page technically is useful. Here's what almost no one is talking about in the Notion space. It's not a template problem. It's not even a discipline problem, and it's definitely not a you need to start over problem. It's a visual load problem, and for ADHD and neurospicy brains, this is important. Visual load is the silent killer of every system you've ever built. And there's a Notion feature that just dropped that fixes everything without necessarily rebuilding anything. And I want to show you exactly how it works using my own setup. If you're new here, welcome. If you are not, welcome back. I'm Ellen, and I do operations and capacity work in Notion for ADHD founders. This came out of a live training that I did in my community recently, so let's dive into it. It basically allows you to hyperfixate. It allows you to have tunnel vision. It allows you to stay focused on that thing that you are doing right now, while still making the other stuff that you might need access to accessible. Tabs basically let you put multiple sections of content into the same space, so only one section is visible at a time. Like, it's kind of like Excel spreadsheets, or like if you have a Google Doc, you can have multiple different tabs in your Google Doc, or if you're using Evernote, you can have multiple different tabs in your Evernote. Tabs are the same way, and how you access it is how I access basically everything in Notion. Whenever I'm trying to add a new block to a Notion page, I use the slash menu. So I do / and it pops up all of the different things that you can add to Notion. So in this case, we're going to do / tabs. All right. And this is what it looks like when you add your tabs in. Okay. So it's going to immediately default to creating these 3 different tabs here. Let's actually go ahead. I'm going to make this full page so that we can kind of start to play around a little bit with what these tabs might look like. And you can go in and you can name these tabs. I don't know. We'll add to-do list. And then you can add, if you're like me and you really like the visual language that you can do in Notion, you can add an emoji for your checklist, or you can add a icon for your checklist here. Whatever you want to do, you can go in and you can rename these tabs to whatever you want them to be. So that's kind of your first thing. And how I personally would go about, and I can show you kind of how I created and chose to create some of my pages using tabs, is for me, I was actually using tabs to recreate pages that already existed in my system. And so which tabs I created were ultimately dictated by the information that was already on the page. But the idea then is that each tab contains its own block. So we could have a linked view of my to-do list, or of my documents hub here. I'm just doing whatever's popping up. So I could have that on this tab. On the next tab, like, notice as soon as I go to the next tab, everything that I just added on that first tab goes away. So maybe I want a calendar view on this tab. And then maybe I want, I don't know, we're just going to say image or something on this tab. Oh, no, I don't want you to create one. Let's just add an image. So you can see completely different information on all 3 tabs. So each tab gets its own blocks, its own text, its own toggles, headings, embeds, linked databases, whatever you already are using, you can put that into the tab, and then clicking between the tabs switches what information you are seeing. Can you add existing pages to a tab, or do you have to recreate them? I'm a total newbie. What I would do, and I can show you this, Anna. What I would do is, if you have an existing page, like, what could be a good page to demonstrate this with? If you have an existing page, what I would do is I would just create the tab on the page, and then I would drag things into it. So let's maybe go to, we'll use my habit tracker page. This isn't one that I was particularly like compelled to turn into tabs, but like, let's say I wanted to take the information that was on this page because it's kind of scrolly. Who knows, maybe I'll actually like this. And I want to put tabs on this page. I like having my little buttons over here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I want to add it above this guy. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and do / tabs. And the thing that I personally really like about it is you don't need to recreate anything. Just drag what is already on the page into the tab. So like maybe here I would turn this into like habit tracking. or something like this. And let's just do that as a checkbox. So what I would do is these are all places that I am tracking my habits, all of these different views. So instead of recreating any of this, I'm going to just quite literally click and drag it into the tab. So if you are taking some of the existing pages that you already have and you want to turn them into tabs, that's what I would do. Don't recreate anything. Just create a tab on the page and then drag the stuff into it that you want. I don't even know what's down here in my summaries. We'll just drag that in here because I don't feel like it needs to have its own page. So then over here, I could do like my trends or something like that. We'll call this my habit trends because that's kind of what I use my charts down below for, is to kind of be able to see what am I looking like? How am I doing with some of my my habits? What do the trends look like over time? And so then I could take this and just drag it into that trends section. And then down here, I mean, this is the habit tracker. I'd probably just drag that into trends because I don't need that. And then I could do the same thing with this section down here. These are the goals that I have that are related to my habits. So I could make this third tab goals. So you can kind of see two things at once here. I'm not recreating anything. I'm just taking what's already there and I'm dragging it into a tab. But then secondly, I'm using what is already on the page to inform what tabs I might want to create. I had this place where I was tracking my habits. I had this place where I was visualizing how the habits were going. And then I had this thing down at the bottom where I'm looking at all of my different goals. So let me go ahead. I already named it goals. I'm going to add, we'll do like a trophy for my goals. And then this I could just drag in as well. How do I feel about having a box within a box? I actually don't hate it, but if I didn't want to have a box within a box, the only thing that I would perhaps recreate here is my 2-column layout. So I would do / 2col, and then I would drag this guy into one of the columns and this guy into the other column, and then just resize it. Beautiful. Okay. See, I like that. So now look what that did. This page actually wasn't terrible in terms of how much I had to scroll to see all of the information that was on the page. It really wasn't that bad, but now I don't have to scroll at all. Now I have all of that same information that I wanted to have on this page, and it's super accessible just by clicking through the tabs. And yes, in case you were wondering, we kind of already have it happening here. You can have tabs within tabs. So absolutely what you said, this will definitely help me organize my chaos. That is what I love about this, is I feel like what it solves is visual overwhelm, endless scrolling. I don't know where to look dashboards because there's so much stuff on your dashboard that is necessary and helpful. Yes, tabs and tabs like subfolders. Absolutely. There's so much stuff that we want to have on a dashboard, but if you are somebody who's really sensitive to visual clutter, somebody who's distractible, maybe a little neurospicy, having a lot of information on the page, though it helps keep things in mind, because I can absolutely be an out of sight, out of mind person, it also can create visual clutter. And I think what tabs does for us is it allows us to have the best of both worlds. Absolutely. So it really helps fix the situation where you have pages that are technically organized, but they still feel very heavy to use. That is what this does. So we just took one of my pages that honestly, I never even really contemplated using tabs for this page, but I kind of like it. I'm into it. So let me show you some of the other pages though, because I think use cases and like what you could use this for is really, really, really helpful. One of the pages that I used this for is my quick capture page. So you guys have heard me talk about my quick capture page a lot. I'm not going to lie, how I've made some changes to some of my systems, this page is kind of now becoming defunct a little bit. I haven't deleted it yet or archived it yet, but this is one of the first pages that I went in and I used tabs on, because let me actually go to my version history. I got to go back to like March. This is what my quick capture page used to look like. And again, not terrible in terms of how much scrolling I had to do, but also not ideal, especially because of the fact that I use this page on mobile. So I had a lot of the same information at the top here, But then I had a section for task capture, a section for notes capture, a section for library capture. I used to have this old section that I've since deleted, a place where I can capture new connections and new clients, and a place where I can capture content ideas. So quite a bit of scrolling on this page. Lots and lots of stuff happening on this page. Now what it looks like is it looks like this. I've still got these little bits at the top here, but then I've just got tabs for each of those sections. I still have a place to capture my task. I still have a place to capture my notes. I still have a place to capture new contacts and leads. And quite literally, I just drug these sections into here. No need to recreate them. And a place for capturing content ideas. And absolutely exactly what you said, Anna, so much cleaner and so much lighter. And I actually think the one big thing that I want to show here, I'm going to stop my share. So much cleaner and lighter already on the desktop. Let me show you what it looks like on mobile. And I'll try to go into my version history here on mobile too, so that you can really see what it looked like on mobile. I don't know if it'll let me go to the version history on here. Yeah, it will. Thanks, Notion. Okay, is that far enough back? Yeah, okay, so on mobile, this is what the quick capture page used to look like. To capture task, I go here. To capture notes, I go here. Scroll, 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 new connections, new clients, new content ideas. And ironically, the new content ideas is probably the one I use the most when I'd be like out on a walk and I think of a piece of content that I wanted to create. And I had to scroll all the way down to the bottom of that page to get to where I'm capturing content idea. Now this is what it looks like. We still got that little section at the top, which I could honestly probably delete. I don't really need inspiration per se. But then I've got all my different tabs. So tasks are right here. Come on, focus, camera. Tasks are right there. Notes are right there. New connections are right there. I know it's mirrored for you guys. I think it's mirrored for you guys at least. And then content ideas are right there. So much easier. I don't have to scroll. I hardly have to scroll at all to get to that information on mobile. That's perhaps the biggest reason I made this change to my quick capture page, is that that's the page that's hot linked on my that I have like a Notion widget for on my like home screen on my phone. That's the page that my home goes to. So it made it so much easier to capture things. Now, the other thing that I did, let me go back into here, reshare my screen. This is another use case that I found to be incredibly, incredibly helpful. And it has to do with my daily pages. So if you guys have been with me for a while, you know that I used to mostly work off of these daily pages. So I made a page for Monday. I made a page that had like all of the stuff that I need on Monday. So like my Notion tip of the week, who am I following up with, so on and so forth. But again, very scroll heavy on this page, right? And then I had a page for Tuesday. And I had a page for Wednesday. Now I am definitely seeing there's aspects of these pages that like I miss. Oh, that's where that task went. OMG. I literally recreated this task like 8 times way back when. And I don't know why I kept losing it, but that's probably why, because it somehow got moved out of my task database. But I have the Tuesday page, the Wednesday page, the Thursday page, and each page has all of its kind of its own layout, its own important information on it, so on and so forth. But again, very scroll heavy pages. And this is actually something that I started to get irritated with about the system. I loved having individual pages, but what I didn't like is I didn't like that I constantly had to change pages. If you know me at all, actually, I want to stop sharing this and let me share instead. We're going to close this window. Let me share this window instead, because this is how I generally like to work in Notion. Is I have my pinned pages, and every time if I like pulled up my Monday page, oopsies. If I pulled up my Monday page and I pin it, this actually drove me nuts. It was like this little thing that drove me insane. And then I went to switch to Tuesday. It wouldn't keep it pinned. It would open a new page. Understandably so, because this Monday page is the pin page, but it just drove me nuts that like every time I had to like pin a new page to keep that thing there. So this is what I did instead is I essentially, and this is one instance where I did have to recreate a little bit. I created a home base for myself. And if you guys are in any of my paid memberships, my premium tier membership or my VIP tier membership, this is something you get access to, this home base training. And actually, speaking of that, you guys should have all gotten an email last week. I know I said I was going to be raising prices on the 15th. I'm a dummy. I don't know why I decided to do that. Literally the day after my birthday, and I was planning on taking my birthday off. So that's gotten pushed back until June 1st. So the price increase is going to be happening on June 1st. But for anybody who is inside of one of the paid tiers of my membership, you get access to this home base training just to make sure it's clear as to where it's located. Because I know a lot of you who are in the, that are in that, I'm trying to multitask and failing miserably. I know a lot of you that are in the paid tiers still access these. It's inside of the premium system school, and it's right here, this Build Your Daily Home Base training. All right. So I personally found that it's really, really helpful to have a home base page that is just my go-to page instead of having all of these individual pages. And so when I was thinking about how do I consolidate the vibe and the feel of these daily pages that has really been working for me, how do I consolidate that down into a single page? That's just the page I pin. That's just the page I go to every single day. So essentially, this is my dashboard, my home base dashboard, right? So this is what I did. Oh, thank you, Anna. I appreciate it. Part of why I had such a good weekend is I went and I took myself out and did all sorts of fun things for my birthday. Okay, it's being dumb because I accidentally minimized the window and it doesn't show up as a shareable window. There we go. All right, so I built a home base page. And the home base page has a lot of the things that I really, really like from my old pages. It's got my little weather widget. So then I can just at a glance, look and see what my weather's like. It's got a little inspo. But then this is what I really like. And this is where you start to see the tabs within tabs thing happen. On every single one of these individual pages, you can actually see it if I go over to the Monday page. I had this exact same thing. My focuses for the day. I had a place where I could see my active to-dos, my priorities, what's blocked, what's completed, how much time I'd spent working on things, and then a place for me to reset any tasks. This little thing here appeared on every single one of these individual daily pages, and it updates every single time. So I was just like, all right, well, we're just going to make a productivity section and copy that block in. And it's got the exact same sections as the other ones had. And if you want to see like how I use these sections and how I do weekly planning with these sections, I think that was partially what I talked about in last week's Microsystem Monday. So definitely check that out. But then I made this other toggle here that is my daily dashboards. And this is where we start to see the tabs within tabs. Tabs and tabs subfolder situation happening. I made a tab that is my daily dashboards. And basically what I did is I copied all of this shit that's down below here. I took all of these sections and I moved them into this page. So there's still a bit of scrolling, but honestly, it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. And I don't have to click between all of these different daily pages. So for Monday, we go right here. And actually this is happening right now. We're recording this right now. I can see the strategy moves that are super important for me this week, the people that I'm following up with, which absolutely I need to follow up with all of those people. I can see all of the stats that I want to keep an eye on, and I can see all of the school communities that I am actively working on kind of building engagement with, which I'll be completely honest, we're not doing that right now. It's just not a high priority. But then instead of having to go to a new page like I used to have to do before, instead of having to go up here, click over to Tuesday, it's so much easier now because I just click Tuesday here and it's all the same information that I had on my Tuesday page, but just organized in here. Now, one thing I will say, and again, I'm happy to go over this with you guys. What I have happening in here is tabs. I do have tabs happening in here, but each of these is actually a dashboard. So one of the newer Notion features that came out recently is you can have all of your different Notion views, table, board, gallery, etc. But there's this new one that came out recently called dashboards. That's actually what these are, is these are dashboards. And what it allows you to do is it allows you to kind of group multiple different database views together into something that's very kind of, it's like a nice visual snapshot. And so I really enjoy that. But yeah, I made a tab for all of my daily dashboards so I can see everything that I need to see on any given day of the week. I also, because you'll notice at the bottom of every single one of these daily pages, I had my habit tracker section because I am tracking my habits throughout the day. Yeah, the graphs and the charts are so nice for that like visual snapshot, but I have this habit section at the bottom. So, okay, well, we're going to make a habit tracking tab. Easy. Exactly what we want. Everything I need to see for tracking my habits is right here. And then this is where I mentioned before that my quick capture page might be going defunct. TBD on that. I might be getting rid of it, or I might just only use it on mobile. That's entirely possible as well, because I created a quick capture page. So the reason I did this, and I quite literally copied everything that was on this quick capture page, except like all of this stuff at the top here. I copied this segment from my quick capture page and I just pasted it into this quick capture tab. And now what I love about this is I can quickly capture those ideas in the exact same way that I used to. You know, the random tasks you think of, the random notes you have to take, the new connections you're making, the content ideas you might have randomly while you're working. I can still capture those things right in this tab, but what this saves me is instead of having to go over to, like, maybe I'm working on something, and instead of having to go over here, click into the right tab, I don't even have to change views. I just go quick capture, contacts, leads, and I add them. So it just saves me from having to switch screens. And then last but not least, I have my like weekly plan, which this is what I really went over last week in terms of how I do my planning, day to day, week to week, so on and so forth. So you can kind of see why I'm so stinking obsessed with tabs is how streamlined it makes everything. So I feel like the other thing that I would encourage people to use tabs for is for your dashboards. That I think everybody should have a home base page. I used to call it an anchor page, but that's essentially what it is that is your home base that you go to every single day and ask yourself, what do you need to have on that dashboard? And then if you already have that dashboard, but it's scroll city and it's overwhelming to use, okay, let's turn those into tabs. We can still have all of our stuff on one page, on one dashboard, and we keep that dashboard, but we split it up. We split it up into tabs. Maybe you have a today tab, maybe you have a this week tab, maybe you have a projects tab, a content tab, and an admin tab. That could be your dashboard right there. And I think it's the thing that it really allows us to have is the dashboard that still has everything that we need, but it shows you only what you need in the moment. If you are in productivity mode and you only need to worry about the things that you are trying to do that day in that moment, okay, you just stay on the today tab and we ignore everything else. It's not visual clutter that is in your face distracting you. It basically allows you to hyperfixate. It allows you to have tunnel vision. It allows you to stay focused on that thing that you are doing right now while still making the other stuff that you might need access to accessible. I highly recommend, if you have pages in your Notion that you're like, I need this page, I know this page is going to be helpful, but I am overwhelmed by this page, that's the first page that I would probably go in and start using the tabs on, okay? If you're sitting with the realization that your system and your dashboard is not broken, it's just overloaded, the thing I'd highly encourage you to do is firstly, join my community because we do these microsystem Mondays literally every Monday. And secondly, join my newsletter. It's called the Sunday CEO Diaries, and it's frankly where I think out loud about all of this kind of stuff. Think of it like the behind the scenes path to running a business with the actual diagnosis behind some of these builds. The link's in the description below, but with that, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.